Hello YouTube. Today I'll be going over a volume mute switch side button wireless charging coil flex replacement. Full disclosure, this is a board and battery out repair, so either have a really good memory or a magnetic pad or some sort of system to keep your screws in place. If you don't have a magnetic pad, you can use packing tape, flip it upside down, put your screws on. It's pretty helpful that way. Like I said, board and battery out, so we're going to need quite a few different tools. I've already worked on this phone. It's essentially just a locked phone, so I just have it as a sort of prop. Some of the things have already been done, like I've already removed the adhesive and also the battery adhesive, so I'm sort of just going to skip over that, but I'll give you some tips when I get up to that part. Essentially, what is it? Tools that we're going to need in no particular order: pentalobe, tri-wing, Phillips, a standoff bit, a nylon spudger. I use 2 different tweezers, an opening tool, and a couple other bits. We're going to need a heat source. So I have a heat gun, but you can use a hair dryer or an actual heat gun. Mine's just battery powered, but you can use any of those. And then for the battery, like I said, mine has already been removed, but 99% rubbing alcohol. All you need is just a couple of drops. You really don't need that much. I obviously have just mentioned I already removed the battery, but I will sort of show you what I, as best as I can, recreate. And that's about it. Like I said, make sure to have a magnetic pad. They're relatively inexpensive, and if you're the type of person that does this kind of repair, inevitably it'll probably come in handy in the future. So with that said, let's get started. Now, like I said, I've already worked on this phone previously. I believe I did it was a charging port replacement, but not really, but so the adhesive is already removed, as well as the pentalobes. You don't need me to figure out how pentalobes work. It's simple. You pull them out. If this is the first time you're taking apart your phone, and your screen isn't broken, obviously this is something that you want to reuse. So do as best as you can to take care not to damage your screen, which can be done pretty simply. You just need to heat up the perimeter of the phone. Usually I start and I warm up about here to here. Then you come in with your opening tool, and this is going to look way too easy. Like I said, I have no adhesive, but essentially you want to sort of wiggle it in and then slowly get under the screen. And you honestly, depending on how long this takes, you might need to heat up another portion once you get your opening tool in. You really don't want the opening tool in more than about this much, as you can see. I mean, it's a fraction of a millimeter. Unlike basically every previous iPhone where the board was on the right side, it is on the, I'm obviously holding it upside down, but the board on every previous iPhone is on this side, but this time around it's on this side, so you do want to be careful of the flex, ear speaker flex, and then the display and touch flex on this side. Now, I will mention sort of the, there are, and you can kind of see them right here, but there are clips which connect into the frame, which are going to present the biggest difficulty once you get past these hurdles. Essentially, the hard part is sort of over. And the nice thing is that you're lifting up on a plastic bezel. You can kind of see it good right here, but the glass is on top, the bezel is underneath. So you can give it, it's not nearly as fragile as you think. Once that's done, there are 2 more clips right here and here. Usually I will lower the right side first, and then you can sort of wiggle it out. Next, there are a few screws for the retaining plate. There is a sort of hook, so this lifts up at a 90-degree angle. Wham bam, we come in with our nylon spudger. Now, I was about to get ahead of myself, but the first and last thing that you want is to disconnect your battery. I mean, I literally just use my fingernail, but you can use the spudger if you want. Once that's done, lift up. And again, you can get right under the flex. Now we take our screen, set it aside. Now, I forgot to mention this in the going over the tools section, but it is not a bad idea to have some bags for your cameras, depending on how long this is going to take. If you do it in one sitting, you should be all right. But this is going to take longer than, or this is going to be something that you start one day and finish the next. If it's like overnight, for instance, I would highly suggest getting some bags for your cameras. That way you don't get any dust or debris, as they are not replaceable. So like I said, this phone was a prop. There is some water damage, as you can see. Take my camera, set it aside. Then I'm going to do exactly the same for my Face ID. And pretty much the rest of these. Some of these do have some adhesive, or might have some adhesive. Yeah, like there's some right on this corner. And there must be some go. There's my front camera. You have our charging port. Now, to get to the battery, there are a couple of tabs. Basically, there's the largest is right here, and they're exactly as this cut out. And same thing here, and then there's either one or two. I know in the Pro Max, I've done more Pro Maxes, there's sort of two tabs, and they're tiny. They're sort of almost afterthoughts. But as long as you get this and this one, it's pretty straightforward. At least the technique that I do is I remove the speaker, which gives me access. I take my isopropyl rubbing alcohol, 91 or 99. I use 99. You can use 91. Do not use 70. I apply a couple of drops. I take a flat set of tweezers, and I literally just pull out You can do this dry, but I find that the isopropyl alcohol helps. The alcohol helps out considerably. You repeat the same thing on the left side. I literally pry it open just a little bit. I hold the phone at an angle. I get a couple of drops right here, and let it sit for a sec, and then I literally just lift up on the battery just like that. Once that's done, we can focus on removing a few more screws for the board. The nice thing about these is that there's no SIM that you have to remove, or SIM tray that you have to remove. This is the first model, or a series more like it, that I've seen, but this flex connects over here. You sort of have to heat up this area and sort of peel back this tape. I'll go over that in just a sec. Something else that you have to do is remove a few screws in this bracket to get to the 5G antenna. It's as simple as there's this little foam piece. If that comes out with it, it's not the end of the world. You can remove it, you can keep it, it's up to you. Next, I've already removed mine, but you can sort of cut away with the flat side of your spudger. There is a bit of foam-like adhesive. You can just, blast it with your heat gun just for, a quick second or two, and then sort of peel this out. Be gentle, as this flex is soldered to the board. Next, we're going to do the same thing with this flex here. So now that it's warmed up, it comes up pretty easily. Just lift it off just like that. We can see that it's one piece just covered by a sticker. If I had to guess, that's just Apple's way of making it tamper evident. Some people have a tendency to just cut that right there, and if they open it up, it's pretty self-explanatory that you've done a board transfer, or that you've done a logic board transfer into another housing. Last but not least, I guess not last but not least, we have one, two. Now this one on pretty much all the 12s is a huge pain in the rear end to get to, but as you see, I use the pointed end of my spudger and sort of lift up and away, tuck it back. Same thing there. Now we can begin the process of, I almost forgot. You have that tiny little screw right there. If anyone didn't catch that, it's this piece right here, or that part right there. And there's still some adhesive holding it right here. sort of finagle it. There you go. There's our board. So as you can see, or you might not be able to see, but there's more water damage, corrosion, salt water, I assume. But for the purpose of this video, who cares? Then we also have 2 more screws on this side. This is our charging port. We can sort of tuck this out in a way. Now we need to heat up the flexes, or I guess you might not actually. I'm going to do this because I need to essentially reuse this. I don't have a replacement part. This is a what's the word I'm looking for? A stand-in. But if yours legitimately doesn't work, by all means, you can just sort of tear it up in a way, but I have a principle of trying to be as minimally invasive as possible. Now the flexes are going to be pretty relatively straightforward to remove. It's going to be the wireless charger that's going to be more difficult. So I'm going to get this portion right here. So a couple seconds will do it. And we have our last screw that they sort of hide behind this flex right here. And it's easiest to... I'm guessing this is going to be a little harder for me because of the semi-corrodedness that already exists. Assuming you don't have any corrosion, you probably won't have that much of an issue. But once you remove the mute switch, good Lord, there's a lot. You might find that some of the adhesive here has a tendency to, there we go, get stuck. Now, unlike basically every previous model, I kind of like the design better. It's easier to replace this switch if necessary. The old ones have these 2 brackets, and it's such a pain. But these do have a tendency to, so if you're watching ahead, these have a tendency to sort of fall out. So make sure that you have some idea of where it is, that way you don't accidentally lose it. So last but not least is heating up the wireless charging coil. You are going to want to use considerably more heat. So I haven't done enough of these to figure out an easier way. I've got it down on the 8s and 10s and 11s, but you sort of just have to slowly peel back this tape, and then you can use a nylon spudger. It's sort of, once again, heat is your friend. Wham bam. No more charging coil. So now it's just a matter of getting all this back into the phone. This may look kind of bad, but I mean, honestly, the majority of this is just tape. Once it's in the phone, it won't matter. Now, like I said, from a sort of design point of view, these are nice. One of the things that's not nice about them is getting them back into the phone. So make sure that you have the switch in the right place. And this should be basically the first thing that goes in the phone. It gets installed. And if it falls out of place, you essentially have to redo all of this. I think I got it right. But it wouldn't surprise me if I didn't. Because it's supposed to be not flush. It's supposed to, no, I got it right. It just needs to be tightened. So out of habit, I never tighten one or any of them really all the way. The method that I have is all the way left, all the way right. Then I drop this one in the middle. And I'm almost positive it's not. There we go. There we go. Make sure your buttons click. Last but not least, they work, they click. Mute switch has full functionality, or at least sounds like it has full functionality. And then we move on to the side. you go. It clicks. It sticks out all the way. Exactly what we want. So now comes our MLB main logic board. So this is where it gets kind of tricky. So I start up here, make sure all of these are out of the way, make sure this has full movement, and then I will go peel these back. Now all of these should line up and it should sort of fit into place. So where we have that post, this post, and that post. What am I doing? This wide flat one goes up top. Phillips up here. Phillips down here. And then our standoff. Now we can begin connecting our flexes. Now, before I connect our 5G antenna, there is, I don't know what you would call this, a spacer. Honestly, I'm not entirely convinced it's necessary, but it's there, so we're going to put it back. So I'm going to call that the spacer. Spacer number 2. And the corresponding bracket. I know you're not that interested in my fingers, sorry. So now we can slowly start connecting the rest. There we go. Once the screen is in place, it's not going to move, so it's really not that important. Alright, and some of these are a little bit... There we go. More annoying, like that one. What else? There, I had to fidget with that one. Now we do our Face ID. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Alright. This back one right here goes first. And then in either order, then the left and right. Now our camera. Now, this doesn't matter for me because this phone is just a prop, but make sure that you don't have any dust or debris on the lens. If you do, you're just going to have to disassemble the whole phone, clean it out, put it back together. So take a chance now. Then we have our, there is a little slot right here. There we go. I do not know what is wrong with my tip. We have our little guy down here. If you're watching this ahead of time, you can get the gaskets for the screen and the battery. They're typically no more than like probably 50 cents or $1 each from wherever you're getting your parts. At least I'm thinking about my vendor, honestly. If you're just ordering on like eBay or Amazon, they might be a little bit more expensive, but they're still not that expensive at all. My general rule of thumb, and I mentioned this in quite a few of some of my other videos, but the phone, just don't expect the phone to be water resistant. At least the phone that I purchased off of, when I bought this off of somebody for parts just to make videos with, and I initially just wanted the screen. This isn't the original screen. This was the only thing that was wrong with it, but there's somehow water still got inside. So I as often as I can, I mention this. If you are reinstalling a gasket, you are doing it for dust, and so that the screen doesn't tap against this little where the gasket, or where the screen rests, and that's basically it. Don't expect your phone to be water resistant. And usually I probably should have mentioned this. If I remember, I might go back and edit this, or I'll add this in the beginning, but I try to keep as much of the gasket there as possible, and if the majority of it is there, I don't bother removing it, because typically that gasket is going to be better than the aftermarket alternatives. As far as same thing with battery, you can get these, and they are specifically cut to fit in exactly those areas, but you just as easily can use double-sided tape. I use, at least they just call it red tape, Tessa red tape. Now, assuming all that's done, you have your battery in place. Make sure that your battery is disconnected when you do this. Remember the hook down here. And we have this small flex down here. Now, at least this main flex right here, I like to push down on the bottom and then the top rather than just in the dead center. Makes for better connection, less tendency to bow inward or outward. My tip is failing me so badly. Why? Now, obviously the opposite of how we installed the screen the first time. Upper left goes in first, then right. So before I do this, I'm going to take the time to note if you have any, make sure that you don't have any screws, loose screws stuck onto your perimeter gasket, which I obviously don't have, but you might, or any other place. They tend to hang out by the Taptic engine. They get stuck to the loudspeaker, like that, for instance. And last but not least, sometimes they can get stuck in the brackets. So don't do that. And that's a wrap. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, leave a comment below. Let me know how your repair went. If you thought I missed anything that everyone else should know, also leave a comment below. If you got something out of the video, well, a like would help. And I'll leave it at that. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.